probably one of the most important discoveries that I had in my life was being able to take this book here that we call the Bible and put it in its proper perspective. And what I mean by that is being able to see it through a certain set of lenses and to see it for what it actually is, and nothing less and nothing more. And so what this book is, the Bible, is a set of myths, fables. There's wise sayings in here. There's even certain sets of history in here as well. But more importantly, when I was able to put it in that proper place and to see it and view it for what it is, it freed me up of a lot of the uncertainties, fears, the anxieties that come along with seeing it in a different lens. Right? And so going through that, coming to that understanding and those realizations, and understanding that it's a book with myths and stories that have underlying meanings, what I came to realize is that it's a tool. Right? It's a tool. It can be used as a tool. And like I said, in those myths and in those fables, there's underlying messages that certain people have access to. Right? And so what we're going to talk about in this video is one of those actual applications that are hidden in the myths. Veiled is another way of saying it. It has a playbook in here on one of the areas and ways that people could colonize and conquer other people. And that's what we're going to go into in this lesson. And so what I want to do is I want to start by bringing out a book called How to Read Your Bible. It's by Manly P. Hall. Now, Manly P. Hall, he's a 33rd degree Mason. And understanding that he reads the Bible, the same exact Bible that everyone else is reading. But what we come to find out when you read Masons or anybody else who is in some form of or position of what people perceive to be power is that people read from the same scriptures, but the interpretation is what sets people apart.
It is important next to realize that the secret doctrine concealed in the Bible must be discovered with the aid of certain keys.
So let's stop right here. He's telling you that there's a secret doctrine within the Bible. One of the secret doctrines we're going to talk about is a secret way to colonize people, as I mentioned. But you need the keys. The keys are certain sets of eyes and a certain perception in order to perceive it when it's shown right in front of you. Right? And that's what we'll get into.
Each of the myths, fables, and symbolic figures has at least 7 complete and distinct interpretations.
Understand, this is one of the things that sets people in power apart from people with no power, is the way you interpret something.
In other words, to open the door, that is, unveil the secret, the key must be turned 7 times in the lock.
7 times in the lock. And we're going to turn some of these keys in this lesson here. We're going to turn some of the keys. So it's saying turn it several times in the lock. And understand, all myths from all different people around the world, this applies to their scriptures as well. And there's always a certain set of people who have those keys. And they keep those keys for themselves and give only a few turns of the key to the general public. Right? And so let's go into the Bible and let's find out. We're going to go through some of the scriptures and then we're going to see how we can turn the key to get some understanding out of it.
Genesis 1 verse 26. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." Genesis 2 verse 19. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field, and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof.
So we're seeing here now, the key is how you interpret something. Now, someone who can only turn the key one time, they're going to have the lowest level of understanding of how to use this tool here. The lowest level of understanding. And this is going to be the vast majority of people. the masses of people will have the lowest level of understanding because they can only turn it one time. Now, someone will look at this verse here, or these two verses, and it says, God made man in his image. Okay, so we see that man is made after God, told to have dominion over all the little creatures and things of the sea. Okay, and then as God made man from the dust, then he brought the creatures over and he said, Adam, what do you want to call these creatures? This is the when you turn the key one time, right? It's very surface level, and this is how they craft these messages all the time. Like I said, in every civilization, you'll find the same set of myths that pile themselves on top of underlying meanings. And so we have it here, as it just looks like the God made some man and then allowed him to have dominion over the fish of the seas and all these other things. Now, but what happens when we come through and we have some extra keys and we turn it a little bit more? Let's go back and read it again and let's see what happens when we have another set of keys and how we can interpret this.
Genesis 1 verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
So we can see right here when we turn the key that what is it saying? That this man here that is a creation is a reflection of this thing that they're determining or deeming as a god. And that man is a duplicate, a copy of this being that they're calling God. Copy of it where? In the physical world. Here on the physical plane. This man is a reflection of what they're deeming to be God. Let's turn it one more time.
Genesis 1 verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
But not only is it a reflection, but the first thing that it's reflecting is the nature of this being called God to dominate. This is the first aspect of its nature that it's showing to the writers of this book, that it has a nature of dominance. That's why it's saying, let them have dominion. God made man in his image, let them have dominion. God or man is a reflection of God. Man is supposed to dominate. Therefore, the dominating nature is a dominating nature of God. This is how they're tying it together. But how is this man supposed to have dominion? Understand, let's turn some keys.
Genesis 2 verse 19. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field, and every fowl of the air, and brought them into Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof.
When you turn these keys, it's saying that if you want to dominate, man has this ability to dominate. If this man is to dominate, one of the aspects of dominating something is placing a name on something. That's why that's the first action that Adam is taking with the animals and the beasts of the field that he's supposed to be dominating. This is writing into the mythology the playbook for domination, is by placing a name on something. And watch, we're going to get clearer with this. Now let's read it again.
Genesis 1 verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
So man is a reflection of God. God has a nature of being dominant. Man is a reflection of God where? On the physical plane of existence, here, on earth. This is how they're encoding it with people who have the keys. Which means man can create, man can dominate. And one of the ways that man dominates here on the physical world is by placing names on things. Now it says the fowl of the air and the fish of the sea and all those things, but it also means humans as well. How do we know that?
Deuteronomy 31 verse 3. The Lord thy God, he will go over before thee, and he will destroy these nations from before thee, and thou shalt possess them. And Joshua, he shall go over before thee, as the Lord hath said.
Shall possess them. What we find out is there's a recurring theme in the Bible about possessing people, nations, and land. Right? It's a recurring central theme in the Bible. Owning people and owning slaves. So what they're doing is writing in a method on how to go and own people and how to take things and possess things. Using the idea of what they call God as giving them a pass. Let's go through and read it again.
Genesis 1 verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness.
And God said, meaning, and God is giving us a pass. This idea of God that we have created is giving us a pass. It's saying that we are just like it. We know we're just like it. These are the writers of the books. They understand that man has a creative aspect of itself. So here's the pass. And God said, anyone can do this. And we'll go into more of it later on. And God said,
let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
And how is man supposed to have dominion over all these things, including other humans?
Genesis 2 verse 19. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field, and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof.
Putting names on things. Now watch this. Let's go into a book by Dr. Paul Foster Case. And he's an esoteric teacher, which are people, he's also a 33rd degree Mason as well. And you understand that certain people in certain societies, they have a different worldview than the masses of people. And this is how they're able to dominate people. This is how they're able to dominate people, by separating interpretations and keeping the interpretations for themselves and allowing the other people to have keys that only can turn one time. But it's not only that, it's also that the mass public doesn't want the extra keys that turn. So it's a two-way street. They don't want to give up the keys, and the mass public doesn't want the keys. But let's see what Dr. Paul Foster Case says about names and putting names on things.
There is a curious colloquial expression one often hears that is commonly used thoughtlessly in connection with something unknown or queer. The expression is, name it and it's yours. Whatever the origin of the statement, it is an actual truth when we understand the real significance of naming anything.
Now you can see that he understands how to use names in order to own and possess things. Right? It's a clear understanding to people who have certain keys that unlock certain doors. Very clear, easy, nothing to debate about. The only people that usually fight against it are the people who don't understand the keys. Right? And that's why it's easy to dominate those people. Very easy. You're taking, they have a full nuclear weapon, a full arsenal of tools, and going against people who are only trying to use a small little paper knives. Right? Easy to dominate those people. And so let's see how this takes place in the narrative in the Bible, to see exactly how they applied it into going in and taking and colonizing as well.
Numbers 32 verse 31. And the children of Gad and the children of Reuben answered, saying, as the Lord hath said unto thy servants, so will we do.
Saying, as the Lord hath said. Here we go again. As the Lord hath said. Creating an entity that speaks, which is really them doing the speaking, and giving a pass in order to go in and do what?
Verse 32. We will pass over armed before the Lord into the land of Canaan, that the possession of our inheritance on this side Jordan may be ours.
Saying that we will take this land, that this being that they created, this being gave them a pass to go in and take the land that they're saying that they inherited. This is a colonizing strategy. They said, you got to remember, the British did the same thing. The Spanish did the same thing. Many colonizing people, they use this same type of formula to go in and do this. saying that you got to remember, the God told the British too to come over and call the native people, to call them native Indians and savages, and that they needed to be civilized.
Christianity played a major part in giving legitimacy to slavery. So the church, as we know it, the organized church from Western Europe, was part and parcel of the enslavement of Africa, and that we must never forget. And they made references to the Bible to legitimize this atrocity. So that is the reality. And the same can be said of Islam, that Islam also did recognize that there are certain people who are not believers who could therefore be enslaved. Religion, as we know it, is as guilty as guilt can be in the enslavement of peoples. And remember, it is not only African peoples who are enslaved. Even other individuals or other groups of individuals in different parts of the world were enslaved and or dehumanized. If you go to the Latin America, the Arawak people were decimated, and religion was in the forefront. In the name of God, people were enslaved. In the name of God, people were dehumanized. In the name of God, Africans were turned into things. In the name of God, Africans were turned into commodities.
Create the entity talks, then it tells you and it gives you permission to go and do and get everyone else on board. Because you're creating a being that it gives the sense as if it's something higher than a human. Although it's a human that's doing the creating. You could talk to many people. God told people to go and do all types of atrocious things, but that was their past to go and do that. Right? Anybody can create anything when you understand how to. That's a tool too. Understanding how to use beings and created entities. That's a tool just as well, and you can learn. That's in here too.
Numbers 32, verse 31. And the children of Gad and the children of Reuben answered, saying, As the Lord hath said unto thy servants, so will we do. Verse 32. We will pass over armed before the Lord into the land of Canaan, that the possession of our inheritance on this side Jordan may be ours. Verse 33. And Moses gave unto them, even to the children of Gad, and to the children of Reuben, and unto half the tribe of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og king of Bashan, the land, with the cities thereof in the coast, even the cities of the country round about.
Right? All these cities that they have their eyes on. All of them that they have their eyes on, this is what they're saying that they're going to go in and do. Because the Lord told them. The Lord is where? In the mental realm. The mental world of creation. Some circles call it the astral realm. That's the realm of imagination. That's the same area where leprechauns exist and Santa Claus. All those things. Right? They all exist in that same realm.
Verse 34. And the children of Gad built Dibon, and Adaroth, and Aroer. Verse 35. And Antroth, Shaphan, Jazer, and Jogbehah. Verse 36. And Beth Nimrah, and Beth Haran, fenced cities, and folds for sheep. Verse 37. And the children of Reuben built Heshbon, and Eliah, and Kirjarthaim. Verse 38. And Nebo, and Baalmeon, their names being changed, and Shibmah, and gave other names unto the cities which they builded.
Now, why are the names being changed? We already remember. We went to Genesis 1:26. It told you the blueprint. God created man. Man is a reflection or a duplicate of God. One of God's attributes is to dominate. That's why Adam was told to have dominion. How do you have dominion? By putting names on things. This is what they're doing. And they changed the name.
Verse 39. And the children of Mashir, the son of Manasseh, went to Gilead and took it, and dispossessed the Amorite which was in it.
There's already people in this land. Who told them to go and take it? The being that they made up, that they created, who speaks the same thoughts that they speak because they're the ones making it up. You have to remember, people wrote this. People wrote this. It's people, humans. Humans wrote this. This is coming from somebody's own imagination to go in and possess the land of other people. Right? This is the colonizing strategy.
Verse 40, and Moses gave Gilead unto Machir, the son of Manasseh, and he dwelt therein. Verse 41, and Jair, the son of Manasseh, went and took the small towns thereof, and called them Havothjair.
He took the small towns, and what did he do? He gave it another name. Right? You don't own that no more. That's on me. That's mine. How do we know it's mine? I took it, and the first thing he did, changed the name. This is the colonizer's strategic book on how to dominate and oppress and go in and take lands and own and dominate people. Right? This is part of the blueprint here.
Verse 42, and Noba went and took Kenath and the villages thereof, and called it Noba, after his own name.
He called it after his own name. Now, why would he call it after his own name? Man is the reflection of God. God's attribute, one of them, is to dominate. Adam needs to go and dominate. How do you dominate? You put names on it. We're going through this through this place, and we're going to do what? He already told you. Back up in verse 32. That the possessions of our inheritance on this side of Jordan may be ours. They're coming in to possess the land. Right? Who's given the authority to possess the land? The created being, which no one can question and talk to. It's so crazy because it becomes it's a laughable thing because it's so basic and so clean, and it's like whoever created and figured this out on how to manipulate humans by doing this, those guys must have been doing a lot of thinking, man. Those guys were doing some marvelous. I mean, whoever created the concept of God, and it's speaking, and no one, the people in the masses can't question it. You got people, the priest, and then you have the masses of people, and there's an entity called God, which it's really the priest and the people who are in position of power who are speaking for the thing, but no one can speak to the thing. Nobody. I'm sorry, man. I have to laugh, man, because this concept here dominated me for years. It defeated me for years. It defeated me for years, man, and it's such a brilliant concept. Well, I have to laugh now, and I'm not trying to laugh at other people who are stuck in that concept because it's not funny. It's really a serious thing, which is why I'm trying to do my best to give the understanding, because it's something that will free you. Once you really, really grasp it, it'll free you and it'll relieve all the fears and anxieties if you can get this concept, right? But back to this. They're using it, and they're using the tool of God, and they're using the understanding on how to name in order to go in and possess places and people. And so how do we understand that this is not just theory? We already know because we have the history that shows it. We saw the British, the Portuguese, the Spanish, we saw them go in and do it. They went into Africa. What did they do? They went through and created borders on that entire continent. Those people in that continent didn't do that, right? They went in, created the borders, and gave names. Why? Because it's a symbol of we own you. They took this during the slave trade, took those Africans from that land, actually traded. I want to be precise. They traded Africans for other goods, took them and said, no, no, no. That's not your tribal name anymore. The Igbo, the Yoruba, you're not those no more. You're black. You're Negro. Why? We own you. And the blueprint is right in here. Right? You find the blueprint in here. If you have the keys to turn the locks. The only people who get mad about it are the people who don't have the keys to turn the locks. The other people who understand it, they're not getting mad. They're turning locks, right? They're turning keys, opening up locks. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing, right? So, and we can also see in even as early as early as 1948 with the state of Israel, they're using this as a tool too, right? When the state of Israel was created, they're using this as a tool too, as a blueprint. The narrative has already been accepted by people that there's supposed to be some people who own that land over there. You got to remember, these are people coming out of Europe who took on the identity of being Jewish, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? And they have a great culture that they have developed out of that. But they use this narrative to go in and dispossess, just like they dispossessed the Amorites, to go in and dispossess the Palestinians. And when they went in there in 1948 and dispossessed the Palestinians, who had been there for thousands of years, they went in there, and what's one of the first things that they did? They changed the names.
More than half of the Palestinian people became refugees, stateless, dispossessed of their land.
Over time, the State of Israel covered up the physical evidence of an Arab Palestine. Place names were often changed from Arabic ones to Hebrew ones.
Letting you know, we own this place. This is ours. I don't care what name you had before it. This is a name you have now. Because we own this. Who told us that we own this? The being in the astral realm that was created thousands of years prior said that you guys have this land here as a possession and an inheritance. There we go. That's a colonizing blueprint. Right here in the Bible. Right? This thing has all types of tools in here, but you got to put it in its proper place. That's one thing I had to do, to put it in its proper place. Not look at it for anything more than what it is, or anything less than what it is. At one time, after I had learned all this stuff, I went through a phase of being irritated with it, and I'm like, I don't want nothing to do with this thing. But then I gained wisdom, and I said, this is a tool, right? This is just a tool. Same thing with all the other sacred books. That's what you'll find out. They're all tools, and they all have some of them have very profound lessons, information, and practical applications in those books, right? But it's covered and shrouded with myths, right? And it's only meant for people who have the keys, just like Manly P. Hall says, the keys, and able to turn. What are the keys? Your interpretation. How do you get those interpretations? You need the eyes to see. You need clear vision. And so what we did was we also took the same keys when we came into our own, and we understood that we don't have, or we don't want to have, people who are in possession of us. Because that's the same thing, like I said, they did. They took them from Africa, brought them over, and eventually they started to mix with other people, and eventually became a new people. But still had the name black on there. Negro. Those are colonizer names. And we cannot have that as we understand ourselves going into the free world. That's unacceptable for any free person to have a slave name. So we did the same thing. Taking keys and unlocking many doors until we're able to unlock a door, and then we were able to receive our new name. A name of pride, a name of power, a name of purpose, a name that properly represents who we are. A name that properly is used as a placeholder to represent what we stand for. And the new name that we received is the name Erpois. What is Erpois? It has a plethora of meanings that we've already defined for ourselves. One of the meanings is users of received power over intellect, senses, and emotions. But what does that mean? A user of received power. Who are we receiving the power from? The ultimate source. The ultimate source. Everyone receives power. We're receiving power from the ultimate source. To do what? To have power over what? Intellect, the way that we think, the way we can use our intellect, which is also a tool that needs to be developed, sharpened. A tool that you use in order to get you certain places, to achieve certain objectives, to be able to analyze information. The intellect is one of the tools, when developed, can get you out of being trapped in here. The intellect can also get you trapped in here. That's why it's important to understand how to have power over it. Right? It can give you keys in order to turn and unlock doors. A door, what door? One of the doors is a door to freedom. So power over intellect, senses. We know that there's 5 basic senses. There's more, but there's 5 basic senses. Sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. Erpois has power over those. Power over the things that are put in our mouths. Power over the things that we listen to. The things that we watch. Power over those things. Right? And when you have power over that, the physical body, then you have power to be able to make it do what you need it to do in order to do what? Achieve the objective you have set out for yourself. What else is it? Power over what? Emotions. Emotions are one of the things that has to be put under control. It has to be dominated. The emotions. The emotions has to be on the same page. Emotions, when they're rattled back and forth and all over the place, it kicks out the reasoning faculty, the intellectual faculty. It doesn't allow it to function properly because it's taking up all the space. Those two are almost like polar opposites in a sense. Overly emotional means very little thinking. Emotions have to be put in their proper place, and they cannot dominate the being, but they have to be under control of the being. So when we use our received power over intellect, senses, and emotions, what we come to be known as is Erpois. Someone who's poised and balanced in thinking, actions, and emotions. And this is our identity. The way we define it for ourselves, and the reality and the worldview which we define for ourselves. And we do not, this is not a racialized identity. We reject 100% the idea of race. We don't have anything to do with that. But instead, we choose to align ourselves with people who have same morals, standards, values, objectives, and goals. We're going on the same place, going to the same place, therefore we can walk together. The racialized worldview doesn't allow people to walk together who would otherwise walk together, right? When they align in those areas that were just mentioned. Morals, values, standards, objectives, and goals. So we got rid of that because that ideology, that worldview, is created to serve the few and to be of detriment to the many. So one of the reasons that I make these videos is to uplift the awareness of people, and in doing that, giving as much information that I can give. The same information that I had to use to free my own self. Giving as much as I can give, and as simple, as plain as I can possibly give. For some of the people to be able to take it, free themselves, And then for some, like here's the key word, some will be a valuable member of the Earpoise community. And then from there, as we keep bringing valuable people to the community, then we can have our own worldview for the children to grow up with a different set of identities that is used to empower them. And once again, that's for the some. This is not something that, we're not colonizers. We're not going and pushing a name on people. This is for us. And those who raise themselves up to a certain level of awareness have the ability to come and join and be productive members, to where we have a community of valuable members on the same goal, and to have the same goal and have the same objective and the same mind. Right? And so we're the Earpoise. That's who we identify ourselves with.